This is the BTEC Task 2 January 2024 dashboard walkthrough. So we're looking at Task 2C. So here is our task sheet. It tells us the dashboard worksheet needs to be completed. Create a dashboard. Create a dashboard to present the work you completed on the imported dataset worksheet and the analysis worksheet so it can be more easily understood by others. You need to use a range of appropriate presentation techniques to display the information in the dashboard worksheet, such as tables, pivot tables, spark lines, graphs and charts, including dynamic graphs and charts. The key thing is that not everything in here is going to apply to every single task. So we're going to have a look at the different things that we can use for this section. So as we look at this one, we've got our analysis of data, so we can see some of the information that we've got. We've got total income for classes over 260, total income for all the online recorded, total income for all the classes, what percentage are online recorded, how much the trainers cost, and how many of each class type we've got. On our data set, we can see the class types, how they're done, how much each class is, who teaches it, how long, what you need, levels, ratings, size, and your income. So we're going to start off nice and simply by thinking about what is the key things that you might like to know. So I would say one of the most important things a business needs to know is how much money they've earned. So I'm just going to take this one. Total income for all classes is going to be the key one. Total income for all classes. And all I'm going to do is copy that and put it on the dashboard. Okay. Total income for all classes. Now I've noticed that I've got a ref here, so I'm going to undo it. And when I go to paste it, I'm not going to just paste. What I'm actually going to do is I don't want the values, don't want the formulas. What I actually want is a link to the cell. So it's going to give me the information. So if anything changes on my analysis sheet, it's going to change on my dashboard sheet as well. So this doesn't look very well formatted. So all I'm going to do is make it nice and easy to read. So I'm going to wrap my text. I'm going to maybe make this bold. That looks a bit better. My total income, it's money, so I'm going to put that as currency. Might decide that we're going to put a border around it, make it look a little bit smarter. Put an outside border. And then I might decide that I want to keep the shading. So it was shaded blue on the other sheet, so let's just go right ahead and shade it blue. So we go, total income for all my classes. That's good. So what else might I like to know? I might like to know how many classes were taken. Now I know we did this and we hid it here on our last video. And if I go to view and my formula bar, view, pop my formula bar in, then I can see where I've got some data. So you can see these are where I've put my data and I've got my total number of classes in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the data and I'm going to copy it. Go to my dashboard and let's go ahead and we're just going to pop it. Let's pop it into those two cells there. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste my data in there. So I've got there my total number of classes and I don't need my total online recorded, so I've got my total number of classes. I want it to look just like this one, so I'm going to format painter. So I'm going to highlight this, click format painter, drop it on, so that's formatted nice and neatly. Now I need to find where is my total number of classes. So my total number of classes is in there. So all I'm going to do, copy that cell again. I'm going to drop it under here for my total number of classes. That looks nice. So I want it to look like this for one here. So I'm going to copy the format, click on format painter, click in, and there I've now got two nice pieces of data. If I look at the task sheet, tables. That will quite nicely cover me for tables. So I can go ahead and I can save that piece of work. So we've got some tables. Let's have a look at doing some charts and graphs. So if I have a look at my analysis, I can see I've got a nice little bit of information here about the class type and the number of classes. So this is something that looks like it would really nicely make a chart. So all I need to do is highlight it, go to insert and see what chart it's going to recommend. So I could do it as a clustered column, but what I'm actually going to choose is a pie because it's showing proportions of a whole. So I'm showing out of all the classes which portion was which one. So I'm going to choose OK, and it puts my chart on that sheet. I don't want it there, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut my chart and pop it onto my dashboard. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my formatting and drop it in here. So it says number of classes. Not convinced that's the greatest title. So I'm going to put number of classes of each type. So I've got a nice title here which very clearly says what it is. I've got my key at the bottom and I've got all of my proportions on my pie chart. I'm going to have a little look at this plus icon and see if there's anything else I can do. So I've got a chart title, I've got a legend. Let's look at data labels. That's quite nice because it can show how many we've got, so I can see the difference between 13 here and 12 here. So I'm quite happy with that. Nice little chart, shows some clear data. So I can now see how much income I've got, how many classes there were, and how many classes of each type I did. Let's have a little look what else I've got. Then I've got my personal training session costs. So I could maybe put that across, or I could put it into a chart. So rather than put the data across, I'm going to pop it into a little chart. So I'm going to go to insert and a chart. I'm comparing different pieces of data. It's not proportions of a whole. So I know for this, I'm going to use a column or a bar chart. It's offered me a column. I like that. I'm happy. And then I'm going to copy it across. I'm not. I'm going to cut it and paste it onto my dashboard. And we're going to pop it on here. And we're going to keep our source formatting. So it says cost of session 1 hour. So I'm going to put this and make it a bit clearer. So I'm going to call it personal training cost of session 1 hour. So that's good. Helps if you spell it right as well, so take that D out there. Now I'm looking at this, so I can see the data, but what I've got is I've got no axis labels. I'm going to go to the plus, and I'm going to choose to put my axis titles on there. And then all I need to do is label them. So up this side, I've got cost per hour, and then at the bottom, I've got the name of my trainers. And then I've got my chart. If you want to, you can go in and you can change the colours so it's easier to see. So if you want to do that, all you do is click on one of the bars, click on the second, and then you can go to your formatting and choose shape fill. So I might want to make Claire yellow. Let's leave Daniel as blue. We'll change Leon. What are we going to give Leon? Let's give Leon orange. And then we've got Paolo. Let's give Paolo a different colour. Paolo can be red. And we've got Tanya across on the end. And let's make Tanya's, let's say, a nice bold green. Oh, and we haven't changed that. Let's put Tanya as green. There we go. So we've got a nice simple chart there. So we've looked at those. We've got some things on there. We've now got tables. And we've now got graphs and charts. So the next thing is pivots. For a pivot, we're going to use the data set. And we're going to make some pivots and see what we can do. This gives us that little bit more analysis that we can do. So to do a pivot, all you do is highlight all of your data. Got that there. And then you're going to go to Insert, and we're going to choose a pivot table. Where do we want it? We want it in a new worksheet, and we're going to click OK. So with a pivot table, you can put in your rows and columns, and you can get values, and you can have filters. So let's have a little look back at our sheet. What have we got? Well, I've got classes, class types, instructors, and levels. So why don't we have a little look at how many classes there are of each level, for example. So I'm going to go to sheet 1, and let's choose class type. That could be my row. So I can see my class type is face-to-face, online, recorded. Let's maybe put the exercise type, and let's go for the class level. So what we're going to do is drag that into the values. So this is going to show us how many of each level there is. So I can see how many face-to-face classes there are and what type they are, how many online and their type, and how many there are recorded. Now that looks quite a lot of data, so what I might do is drop a filter in here and change it. I could filter it by either the type or the class exercise type. So I'm going to just drop the class type up there. So I've already got this, haven't I, in a pie chart, how many of each class type there is. But I don't know what levels there are. So why don't I pop that in my column value? So I can start to move things about so I can see what I've got. And I'm not really happy with any of that, so I'm going to take it out and we'll have a look at starting again. So let's have a think. That's too similar to what I've got, so maybe I need to know what the classes are like. So let's have a look at getting me the class levels. So I've got the class level, and then I need to know the value of the class level. So let's drop that one in there. So that's how many of each class level I've got. That's quite nice. I like that. I think that might be useful. Now, why don't we have a little look at exercise type? So there we go. We've got exercise type. So that's quite nice. I can see how many of each level class I've got. That's fun. It's useful for somebody to be able to see. So you can see there's 24 advanced level, 10 beginners, 16 intermediate, and how many of each there is. Could be a lot of data for somebody, so maybe I'm just going to take my exercise type and pop it in there as a filter. So what I've now got is all the different levels of classes, and then what I can do is I can filter it. So I can look at cardio, so I can see how many of each type of cardio there is. I can look at core, see how many types of core there are. So that's a nice set of data there that I can see. So quite happily, I can take this pivot table now and I can copy it, go to my dashboard, and I can paste it in. So maybe I'm going to paste it in right at the top here. Don't want to paste it. Don't want the values. Don't want the formulas. I want a link. So I want it to look like what we've got there. So I can pop that in, but I don't really like it. I think that looks a bit messy. There's a lot of data. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make it into a chart. Nice and simply, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my chart here, highlight all of my data, and I'm going to put it as a pivot chart. Set it up as a column and press OK. And what I've got here is I've got my ability to choose all of them, and then I can split it down by cardio or by core again on this one. So this shows you all of the different pieces of data. I think that's a lot easier for somebody to understand. So what I'm going to do now is label it up, and I'm going to call it number of classes at each level. Then to help somebody, click exercise type to choose. Okay, so then you've got what it is and you've got a little bit of an instruction. What I need now is to add my axis labels, and then I've got a choice if I want to do my data labels. I always think it helps. So I'm going to put here and here number of classes, and then in this one just here I'm going to change that one to be level of class. So a nice simple chart that shows what we're doing. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to copy it, go to my dashboard, and let's maybe move personal training costs somewhere else, over there, and let's maybe put this up here a bit, and let's drop this one in this gap here. So what I'm going to do, keep my source formatting, and there is my little pivot table. So I've got some nice information there that's nice and easy to understand. Then I'll put my personal trainer down there. Now we can have a look at doing some more pivot tables if we want to. So we can go to insert, and we'll go to pivot table again, and we're going to have another new worksheet. So we can choose all the data that we want, and we're going to put this one into a new worksheet. So we start all over again. We can have a look at some other things that we might want to do. So we might want to look at, for example, which instructor does the most classes. So we could put in here, we could have a column for the instructor name, and then we could have a look at the class income, so we can see how much each person brings in. That looks quite nice. You could put that into a chart if you wanted to. We could look at their cost per hour. We could add that in, and you could put that across, and we could put their trainer costs, and you can see how much it costs per hour. You could add that into a chart, and you could do that one. That would be absolutely no problem at all. It's entirely up to you what you want to be looking at. One of the things you might want to do is, do people need equipment for classes? So we could choose maybe whether they need equipment, and then you could choose the class type. And then you could put in the amount of classes that need the equipment. So then you can see which classes need equipment or not. That looks like quite a nice one. So you can see how many of each class need each type of equipment. And if you wanted to, you could even put a filter in so it filters by exercise type. So you can choose it again, just like we did before. So you can see if you do cardio, you can see which ones you need for each one. Another thing that you could add in is you could do what's called a slicer. So I'm going to take the filter out, and what you could do is you could analyse the data by using a slicer. If we go to insert slicer, and we could have a look, and we could put a slicer in here for exercise type. Okay, and all that does is it pops us a little set of buttons that we can click. So just by clicking the exercise type, you can see that your values can change. And if I delete the filters, it takes it back to everything that I'm going to need. If you want to, once again, you can set this up and you could do it as a pivot chart if you want to. And once you've got your little chart there, you can then select it through your slicer. All you would need to do then is take it across to your dashboard. So I'm going to clear my filter so I've got it nice and easily, and then copy it across, pop it on my dashboard. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit, and then we'll take from sheet 2 my little slicer and pop it onto my dashboard. And that one's there. And then as I look at my charts, I can see it's quite nice and simple, but I am missing those key features. So what I need to do is add my axis titles. I need to add a chart title, and let's go ahead and add the data labels as well. So now I'm here, what I'm looking for is equipment. So what equipment? So what classes need equipment, let's say. What classes need equipment? And up here. And we can just put in there number of classes. And then across the bottom, oops, I've got classes instead of classes, so let's go in there, classes. And then what have we got across the bottom? We've got the type of class. So there I've got some pivot charts and some charts, so that shows a number of things. So I now know how much income I've got, how much I've got for my total number of classes. Total number of classes is in currency, that's not right. Good job we've checked that. So I just put it as a number. So I've got 50 classes, I've got this much money coming in. I've got this many of each type. I've got a different number of levels, so I've got a lot of advanced, not many beginners, and a few intermediates. I've got a number of personal trainers, and Claire, Leon and Paolo are the same price, and Tanya and Daniel are much cheaper. Then I've got which classes need equipment, and I can see I've got a lot of different types of classes that need equipment and what equipment they need, but then I can split it up, and I can even see core, cardio, etc. for that one. So all you would need to do is have a little look at other things that you might like to put in. You might want to do some charts that show how many of each types of class a person takes. So you might find out that a particular instructor does more online recorded or does more face-to-face. You could look at the review ratings. So it might be useful to know what gets the highest review ratings. Might be useful to know which class level gets the most reviews. You could do a chart which looks at that. It's entirely up to you. You just need a range of charts to show your skills. So you've got to present your work so it can be more easily understood by others. We've done tables, we've done pivot tables, we've done graphs and charts. The last thing we could look at doing is spark lines. So I'm going to look at my data. And spark lines are generally used for looking at data over time, comparing different things. I don't actually have anything for data over time. I don't have a record of whether this data is for 1 year or 2 years, if they started with intermediate and now they do advanced. So I don't think there's any need for spark lines that are in here at all. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I've covered a range of skills. I would get a decent number of marks. And then all I would do is go ahead and add a few more pivot charts at the bottom to make it really, really clear everything that the company does. It's up to you which ones you do, but go ahead and make 2 or 3 more.